I'm Michael Clayton, and I'm about to do some snacking and yakking with Big Ben Kennedy. So glad you guys are here with us today. I just want you to know this is a 3-camera setup. Each camera adds 20 pounds. I actually have abs, so whatever you're seeing in the lens, do not trust it.
he was going to say that for the intro back before, but I told him keep it short before the animation. But still,
The magic of editing.
I'm sitting here with Michael Clayton, a comedian from the Charleston, South Carolina area and New York City, and he did some shows in Colorado. You've been branching out all over the place, and that's pretty cool. But today, I get to have him sitting here with me, snacking on some chicken wings.
Man after my own heart. I love chicken wings.
Snagging on some chicken wings from Wingstop, not a sponsor. But the funny thing about it is most of the people, my wife, my son, some people that I said, they were like, what are you snacking on for this upcoming episode? They seem to be very invested in the food, and people love food. And so I said, it's going to be chicken wings. And they were like, chicken wings as a snack? And I'm like, well, yeah, if you plan on eating again very soon, anything can be a snack.
Well, and it's funny, as soon as I said it, I'm like, I'm going to sound like the biggest diva bitch on the planet. Because I'm sure you were like, I can run by Sunoco and pick up a bag of chips. And it's like, no, I want chicken wings.
But you know what? I leave it up to the guests. I leave it up to the guests to decide what they want for the snack. And it's exciting for me because I don't know what I get to eat this weekend.
Yeah.
When I'm taping. So I'm always excited to find out, like, what are they going to choose? Who knows? And sometimes, Neil Chris, we ate gummy snakes.
Well, I feel like this is something where somebody could take advantage of you. They'd be like, hey, Ben, I want to do your podcast. By the way, I love escargot. Can you?
Did Mom just not say that this morning? She said, they're going to be challenging you. They're going to be like, when you go on Ben's podcast, get something really rare from like another country or something.
Rocky Mountain oysters.
I'd eat them.
I've eaten them before.
Well, that's just the thing. I don't have a food phobia man. I eat anything. But I did tell you, I was like, hey, we actually have to do some talking during this, so maybe we do boneless instead of bone-in.
No, I think that was a good call.
Yeah.
Working around the bone, I think, would cause a little bit of a conflict.
We're just sitting here like, so yeah, so I
don't need an obstacle to the conversation.
Yeah. So as we were touching on before, I didn't get a chance to really put out something to my Patreon here about you coming on, but to describe you best, I would say, I told you this before we started, and it's a weird name, but cinephile.
Yeah.
Wrestlehead, if they even call him that anymore. They did when I was a kid. And comedian. And I feel like your passions are in that order. Comedian usually takes third to the other two that seem to switch up.
I definitely love comedy, and I love doing comedy, but like I was telling you before, a lot of times when people go like, oh, where are you traveling for comedy? What they don't know is that it's like, oh, there's a wrestling show going to happen in San Francisco. I guess I'm doing comedy in San Francisco.
I'm going to be there anyway.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm very fortunate that I've been able to do comedy for a long time. I've been able to find success with it. And it's still something that I adore and I love, and it's one of my favorite things in the world. But this weird thing that happens with comedy, that the longer you do it and the more success you find in it, you treat it almost the way you would like a job if you're trying to do that. Mm-hmm. And while you love your job, there are times that you're also doing it not as the main thing, but also to explore some of these other hobbies.
Right.
And, comedy, even though it is a lot of fun, depending on the room, it can be work.
Yes.
I've even joked before that, like, with certain audiences, that people will be like, how was it? I'm like, it was a blast. And then with tougher audiences, they'll be like, what was it like? And I'm like, it was a job.
Right. And I think about that. I used to do comedy a lot more, like almost full time when I was younger. Took a break for family, getting back into it here and there now,
Yeah.
It's been a while. But I sit here and go, man, I would just give anything to go back out on the road to do this, to do what I used to do. But I do remember at times it feeling like, man, I don't want to do this today. I don't want to go to work today. Like I never thought I would feel that way when I was doing it, but I would tell myself now that I never felt that way, but it's a lie, It totally became like a thing for me.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there are people in porn that are like, Oh God, I gotta have sex with this gorgeous woman again today.
Right,
Like
like
this,
come on.
this is such garbage.
I swear, if
I
I
want
see
to play.
another vagina, I'm going gay. I swear to God.
I want to play Elder Scrolls. This is bullshit. Everything kind of becomes a job at a certain point.
Right.
You're an EMS. I've had so many people that are in EMS or emergency dispatch where they talk about how things that would be considered horrific to most people become mundane.
They do.
Because you're doing it so often that it becomes a job.
It's like leave it at the front door, take your uniform off, shed your skin, leave it with the uniform. You develop those tricks. Some people do. Some people drink. There's some people who really take the distraction via self-induced pharmaceutical hobby route, and it's like, man, I don't know how to do that.
Did you enjoy Bringing Out the Dead?
I did. I never saw it prior to being in this. Everybody kept talking about it. So there's a lot of us. The older set remember the show Emergency.
Yeah.
With Randolph Mantooth.
Yeah.
And so a lot of people remember that. And so when you find somebody who's in this field and they're over the age of 50, they were like, I watched Emergency as a kid.
Yeah.
And then when you find anybody past that, I watched Bringing Out the Dead, And then I finally watched it many, many years ago. And I was like, why would you want to do this after watching that movie? Yeah, it has some moments. The Narcanning the person and acting like God brought him back. And it has some funny moments.
Well, and there's the one I forgot the black actor. It was either Ving Rhames Ving Rhames, where he almost talks about the rush of like saving a life.
Yes.
Like I can understand where that would have almost like doing well in front of a crowd, where there's like this narcotic effect.
Absolutely.
Of like being able to do that. I could connect with that. But yeah, like it's a pretty dark story.
I'd be banging.
Yeah.
But I tell you, I don't think there's any one of us who have not had that conversation in the chief's office. Like, you said if I were late one more time, you'd fire me. Like, we want to be fired sometimes.
Yeah.
And they go, I'll fire you tomorrow. They won't do it.
Time out. Have you been to patreon.com/Snackin Yakkin? There's behind-the-scenes content, a bonus podcast, and more. That's patreon.com/Snackin Yakkin. And now back to the show.
And we're like, come on. Because there's just some point where we're like, force my hand. Force me out.
Yeah.
Because obviously I'm not going to do it. Because there is a slight, some people get noble about it. Some people get uppity about it, where like it's a calling and it calls you. And there's also, if you're good at what you do, or if you're at least better than adequate, that there are a lot of people who are in this field, or there are a lot of people coming into this field who aren't.
Yeah.
And so it becomes a thing where you tell yourself, they need me. You know what I'm saying? Not like me personally.
Yeah,
but
there's a certain skill set, and it's a very stressful situation.
Correct.
That people that are able to handle the stress, that are able to function under the pressure, that becomes a commodity.
Right.
And then if you're stepping away, does that commodity create more problems or make it more difficult for people to get the help they need? Especially
when you've been in a district, an area, a neighborhood, it becomes like the people.
Yeah.
Your frequent flyers. When you run into the gas station to buy yourself snacks before you go on shift, somebody just hugs you out of random. Thank you so much for what you did for my. Yeah. You become a member of the community, as it were, the community at large. And so then you tell yourself, well, they need me, or I can't let them down. And it's rough because, you gain weight, you get put on blood pressure medication eventually. Like, it does break you down, but it is hard to walk away from. It really is. And it made it easier for people during the pandemic when the pandemic hit. A lot of people who were on that fence, who had one foot out the door, they were like, well, I'm not dying for this fucking shit, and they left.
I think that was true for a lot of things.
Nursing did it. Like, there was a lot of...
Yeah, and even though it's certainly not as intensive a job,
right?
I knew so many comics that were kind of doing comics. They were doing comedy because they felt like, well, I've done it this long.
Right.
Why should I stop? And then as soon as they were not able to do it for a few months, they just never came back.
Yeah, stop pedaling the bike. That's what happened for me, too.
Yeah.
When I took a break, I felt like you stopped pedaling the bike and everybody just kind of forgot about you. You know, it's like you have to keep showing your face to be relevant.
A very rapid, and it's, and I think there's a lot of professions that had to deal with that. And I also think COVID in a lot of ways was just kind of a reset for people where they kind of had to reassess the world around them and view it differently.
So many people, I remember the problem with Trump wanting everybody to get back to work. Well, unfortunately, when they took a break, they realized, I'm paying somebody to watch my kids for the privilege of working to pay somebody to watch my kids. They reevaluated their finances because we were so caught in a machine.
Yeah. I think it illuminated a lot of, I've said before, I think the number one thing that came out of COVID, like in the U.S., is I think like, if anybody is looking at the healthcare system and going like 10 out of 10, no notes,
right?
After COVID, it
exposed a lot of flaws.
Yeah, I have my own personal opinions on how healthcare can be addressed. It's not even about that. It's just if anybody looks at it and goes, it's perfect the way it is, I'm like, you probably need to re-examine. You can have a different theory on how to fix it, but like that, I think it illuminated that. But I think it illuminated a lot of those things. And I think like, as painful as those situations can be, anytime you have more reality coming to your door, I think that's a good thing, even if it's a difficult reality.
That's true, too. Man, these wings as a snack is dangerous, man, because I typically don't polish off snacks, but I don't think that's making it to the end of the episode. They're really good.
My girlfriend actually, because we collect hot sauces, she's like, are you going to bring some of the hot sauce? And I'm like, no, because we didn't bring the reinforcements in case it gets too toasty.
Right.
And I wouldn't want that on camera if I don't have like milk right next to me.
In a previous version of this same show of Snackin and Yakkin, we did kind of food review, or we did kind of food challenges, and Benjamin over there and I, we did the season 23 hot sauces. I bought them for him from Christmas, for Christmas. That sentence was fucking rough, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I bought them for you for Christmas to because he was a big fan of the show, and as was I, and we still love to watch it.
He's an amazing interviewer.
He really is.
He really is.
So we put that, we finally, he was like, we're going to do this. We're going to do this. We're going to do this. And I held out. I think we filmed that episode in March. I think it was like his birthday, and I was like, fine, we'll do an episode with it. How's that sound? And he's like, yes. And we laid it out just like it, man. We put them all 1 through 10.
How did you handle the bomb?
It's just as bad as everyone says.
It's fucking horrible.
The bomb has no taste.
It tastes like gasoline going down.
And I went, and I said, like that was clear my throat. And I said, I said it on air, I was like, should I add the echo in post, like how they do on the show? And I totally did.
Well, the funny thing is like, when you do, because, that's usually the 8th sauce.
It was 7th, yeah.
Yeah, 7th or 8th. And, like, 9th and 10th are hot, but, like, the Hot Ones brand sauces are really good.
Flavorful.
The flavorful.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, I have the Pepper X sauce that they made, which is now
that was the one
pepper.
That we had, was the 10th was the Pepper X.
And it's hot, but it's, like, not brutal because the flavor's not bad. But,
right.
like, there's nothing pleasurable about the bomb. Like, it's just misery.
Yeah, it's just pain. It's like, man, I just licked a 9-volt battery for no fucking reason.
Yeah. We did it. We filmed, I've done 2 comedian Hot Ones challenges where we filmed it. But the saddest thing is my girlfriend is like a fucking mutant when it comes to hot sauces.
She handled it better than you?
Oh, God. Like, we're literally, it looks like a Vietnam movie. Like, I'm by the sink going like, and she's like, yeah, this one's a little bit spicy.
She's like it's like dirty work.
Yeah.
When freaking Artie Leg's like, I think I feel an itch right here.
Yeah, and I'm literally going like,
he's having hallucinations of Gary Coleman dressed, in hell. And
I love that movie.
Sandler's the devil. That was such a fun movie, man. The infamously, that fish in the closet of the mob thing and all that noise going on while they're just sitting here like this.
Yeah, there's so many great gags in that movie, and so many great lines.
Oh, yeah.
Like when he's in prison, he goes, what hurts the most is the lack of respect. Well, that other thing hurt
too.
more, but the lack of respect is certainly the second one.
And you should be ashamed of yourselves.
Yeah.
I mean, seriously, like the way he's lecturing them, but the standing on, Bob Saget, God rest his soul, he was the director of that, the hanging on the one-shots, he was not afraid to let them control the scene, and it worked in each of those moments. I think what made us laugh is that he's standing there lecturing them, and it's like the guard who's letting him out, and Artie and him. Yeah. And he keeps going off, but you don't see the opposite side. You don't see the guys like blowing him off or like,
I suspect he probably shot that kind of like Judd Apatow shoot stuff, where he probably just said, go ahead and improvise a little bit, and we'll just cut when we want to cut.
And the Norm probably offers a lot more in improv than he ever did reading a script. Yeah. That guy was a brain, man. He really was.
Yeah, I remember I saw him at the New York Comedy Festival.
Oh, I never got to see him live.
And the funniest thing was the first 10 minutes, he was just shitting on other acts at the festival. Like, just brutal. And I was dying laughing.
Yeah, so who were your... I don't think I've ever asked who your like kind of influences are. I should ask that of more comedians, but I don't think I've ever asked that.
So that's an interesting question. I'm like a comedy nerd, like about the history of comedy as well.
Yeah.
So like I actually have kind of older influences. I mean, Carlin's like my guy.
Right.
I love Pryor. Norm was a huge influence. But also like Roddy Piper. Piper was a huge influence.
Yep.
Like there were a lot of people. I mean, one of the reasons that I loved pro wrestling is like a lot of what I enjoyed in comedy I found in wrestling as well.
Oh yeah.
I mean, most of the best comics are essentially themselves, but the volume's kind of turned up on stage.
Correct.
Pro wrestling is the same way. I mean,
when somebody's playing a character that's not them, it doesn't hit very well.
Yeah.
Like when the Rock Johnson, Dwayne Johnson showed up as that whole tasseled up, like, Cthulhu thing.
Yeah, the blue chipper.
Yeah, it didn't work. It just, everybody was like, and he was like,
the only person who's ever been able to pull off a character, and even that character is more like that person than people want to admit, is maybe Undertaker.
Correct.
Like, he was able to play a gimmick that kind of stood the test of time, but if you see interviews with Taker, he's not that far removed outside of, like, the pageantry of it.
Right. He's quiet. He's a quiet type, or he can be a jerk. He can be an ass. I was watching his podcast, and I watched, I had to watch Hell in a Cell yesterday.
Yeah.
For the anniversary. I had to, and I did.
Favorite wrestler of all time is Foley. I'm actually opening for him
I know!
July 23rd. And
I saw that.
That's like, it's like a dream come true.
I'm reaching out to him. I don't think it's going to happen, but I'm reaching out to him. I found his management and all. I would love to have him here before your guys' shows. I would love if he
came on too. I've gotten to meet him twice. He was wonderful. First time I met him, it was at a signing, and it was supposed to be like a 3-hour signing, and he extended it to 6.5 hours.
Man,
to make sure everybody could get their moment with it.
You have to be good to your fans. I was talking with him about that and directors. Kevin Smith, great fan of his. I love him. I've met him. He's super nice. I used to chat with him online. That was the best. We used to chat with him back in the days of AOL.
I remember being on the message boards back when VSQ had the message
I chatted
board.
with him on AOL, and I remember his AOL name because I sent him something through the VSQ email. He wrote me back on AOL.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, I have his screen name. So we would chat. I was at a Q&A for Reboot at the music hall.
Yeah.
And I said, so-and-so at AOL.com. That was you? And he goes, yeah. And I said, well, I was so-and-so. And he goes, okay. I said, we used to chat around the time that Amy came out. I think Rats had already come out. I asked you how the Amy premiere went. I said, we used to chat all the time. And he was like, no shit. And we started like reminiscing a little bit, but he cut it off because like we're in front of a crowd. But he goes, this was back in the day, everybody, when you could finish the internet. Where like you were just like click, 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 click. And then you're like, okay, well, I'm done. I guess I'll be back when they build more sites.
Yeah, Chasing Amy and Dogma, I still think are his two best movies.
We just saw that at Citadel for the re-release of Dogma.
Yeah, he finally got the rights back, which I'm excited for.
Well, she got the rights for him.
Yeah.
And he's allowed to have some of that, but he said, can I buy it from you? She said, no, I'm going to exploit this and make as much money as he can. And he said from one shameless hoe to another, fuck yeah,
Well, the reason I'm excited, I had the DVD way back in the day.
I do have it too.
And there were so many cut scenes in Dogma that were like really interesting, well-written scenes.
Jason Lee's scene.
Yeah.
I watched that cut scene so many times that I thought it was in the movie until I just watched this re-release, and I realized it wasn't.
Well, like the
whole wailing of the dam, begging to be punished. Yeah,
you like find out their entire backstory, the Stygian triplets, like, because they don't really explain that much in the theatrical cut, and so there was so much. And because it was such a well-written movie in terms of really just dissecting the Catholic dogma and things like that, I was really excited by all the deleted scenes because they really did add to the mythology.
They did.
So I'm excited about that.
So the thing is, like I was saying about directors, like Kevin Smith will be the first to tell you he's not the greatest director.
Yeah.
You know, he's very self-deprecating, but he's also honest. And so he's like, I'm not, you know, my heroes, my Spielbergs, my Lucas, I'm not, you know? And I said, well, fair enough. But if you're not gonna be, or if you know that you're not, then being good to your fans bridges that gap.
And if you can't be the best, be different.
And if you're Spielberg, you never have to meet a layperson in your life because he's incredible at what he does.
Yeah.
So that's the thing, is like there's certain people, certain celebrities who can be an enigma because they're amazing at what they do. But there are certain celebrities who really should lean heavily into that social media aspect because it can make you marketable and lengthen your career for many years past you would have had any other way.
Well, there's also this thing of like certain artists have license because of their skill or because of who they are.
Right.
And people sometimes get upset because they're like, that's unfair. And it's like, well, that's part of the arts. Like, two examples I can give is we've all seen those clips of like Bill Hicks going off on an audience and tearing into them. And they're like, well, why can't I do that? And why can he? And it's like, well, because he was Bill Hicks.
Correct.
And like another example of this is I remember a guy one time saying like, pro wrestlers should never be under 5 feet tall. And then somebody said, what about Rey Mysterio? And he's like, yeah, but he's Rey Mysterio. Like, and there you do understand what he means because Rey was an exceptionally talented individual.
Yes.
Like kind of a one-of-a-kind talent. Same thing with Bill Hicks. Like, there's certain people, because of the arc of their talent, are able to overcome what are like the restrictions typically in the field.
Man, Bill Hicks. I remember I saw that documentary on him and just came out maybe like 12 years ago or something.
Oh, American?
American? Yeah. That was incredible, man. I had zero clue about a few of those things, and I'm glad I did. And I love that they dipped into his mushrooms thing because he talked about it on stage, so you knew he was a fan of it. You knew he had experience with it. But man, I was so happy that they showed, like, his buddy was talking about having a guide and how they, you know, would set the fire and he would explain to him the next day all the things that he saw. And just, it was really, it kind of showed that, like, he knew he wanted something more. And especially as he was diagnosed and he knew his time was running short, he really wanted to know as much as possible before he left.
He had an intellectual curiosity, which I think for any artist is the best thing you can have.
Correct.
One of the things that I like about him too, he was amazing from a young age. They actually released a couple of years ago audio from him, like when he was like 16 doing comedy.
Oh, yeah.
And even though it's definitely like stuff a 16-year-old would be talking about, like I got in trouble at school kind of thing.
Yeah.
He's so fucking good.
He got on the Comedy Store wall, the famous wall with all the autographs, at like 19 years old.
Yeah, I mean, he had so much poise. It was just, I remember, it kind of reminds me, the Museum of the Moving Image in New York, they had a Scorsese exhibit at one point.
Okay.
So the most amazing thing they have, they had a lot of cool stuff. Like at one point when he was trying to fight colorizing black and white film, they have all the letters he got from directors that were championing him. And it was like Steven Spielberg, George Lucas, and then one of them was Leni Riefenstahl, who directed the Hitler movie, The Triumph of the Will. The propaganda movie. So even this propagandist was like, don't colorize film.
Right.
But it was all these like people in film coming. But the most amazing thing, when he was like 8 or 9 years old, he drew storyboards for a Roman war epic. And it wasn't just like, ooh, I did drawings. They had like camera angles in the pictures. And I'm like, this dude should never have done any other profession but film. Like, it was just embedded in him.
Yep. And they're people who knew what they were going to be when they were born. It was, I knew I was going to be an entertainer of some sort. Everybody. My cousin just wrote me the other day, hey, Dan, love you. Just wrote me 2 days ago and said, look at you, man. Like, 47 years old and you're doing what you were supposed to do, and you've always been this guy, and it's so great to see you doing it.
Yeah.
He just loves, because my family saw me doing a show, saw me, talk show host, game show host, something. They saw that in me from a very young age, because everybody else, they didn't have that. I mean, not that I don't have talented people in my family, but they just weren't like me.
Yeah. Well, they didn't
And-
have. I mean, it's a mixture of talent. It's a mixture of just fascination with that world, and then probably a little bit of mental illness.
I have
certainly on my
enough mental
part.
illness to delude myself that this will be exclusively my day job one day. And
Yeah.
and that pushes me, though I work my overtime shifts, I pay for this studio, I pay for the furniture, the equipment, everything that I've done works out as overtime shifts. So it's like, that's going to cost me 24 hours. That's going to cost me 12 hours.
And I was fortunate, like, when I started stand-up, I was fortunate because my entire goal in stand-up was just to get good at stand-up. Like, even
Yeah.
beyond, like, you know, do you want to do this? Do you want to play here? Do you want to play there? That really, I mean, not that I didn't have aspirations for any of that.
Right.
And not that I still don't with certain things, and not that I haven't been able to accomplish, like, minor goals that I have. But my number one thing is, like, I just want to be somebody who is skilled at this particular craft. And that kind of drove me more than any, particular type of, like, tangible goal.
And I did that. Of course, I was the I'm going to be famous one day.
Yeah.
Came out guns blazing. But then it's stepping away from it and getting into EMS and talking to people in a closed-in box and understanding that, like, even though they're not replying to you, and it's not because they're unconscious, but I'm talking about if they're afraid
Yeah.
and they're not talking, you have this ability to anticipate or read their mind because you're just having a conversation with them. You know they're scared, and you say, you know what? You have every right to be scared, and I understand. And you can do that. It's kind of like a gift where you start to realize, you know what? If you're not malicious, you have no bad intent, and you're not trying to scare them further, you can ease their mind by putting words in their mouth of sorts.
Yeah. I've always said before, especially, like, if I meet somebody who's, like, newer to comedy,
Right.
like, I always say, like, being funny is actually the second most important thing to comedy. The first is just making a connection.
And that's where I go with that is
Yeah.
like, so having come back to it this time around, I understand the psychology of it so much more in that, barring hecklers, you're having a one-sided conversation, but you need to realize you're having a conversation because when you say something, they are thinking in reply, even though they're not saying it out loud, barring hecklers. So when you talk about something, like I have a joke where I talk about being a paramedic, I share a couple of stories. After I share the stories and get the laughs for the stories, I go back and I say, and by the way, I heard what you were thinking. You're thinking, aren't you a little too fat to be a paramedic? To which I can only reply, aren't you a little too little to run your mouth to someone my size? And they laugh because the ones who did think it feel caught, like, ooh.
Yeah.
And the ones who didn't are laughing because they're like, ooh, he just busted a few people in this room. Like, you're having the other side of the conversation. And that's a fun thing to do. So I watch a lot of younger comics of now. Their humor's great. They're self-deprecating. They're all doing a lot of this relationship woes or things like that. It's a definite theme amongst a lot of younger comics right now. But what some of them are failing to realize is where your audience may not get where you're coming from, it's kind of your job to prompt their thought, prompt their response. You need to
You have to make
stoke
sure you're still making that connection where they feel like, even if they can't relate one-to-one to the situation, they need to have a doorway where they can enter into it.
And that's where I've really enjoyed coming back to comedy, and that's where I've succeeded more often than not. Way more. I mean, I never had bad shows, but I relied a lot more on my energy. I relied a lot more on a personality.
Yeah.
Whereas now I get to be me and do my material.
There are certain people that can certainly, on persona, have a certain level of success
Yes.
even before jokes come into play.
Yes.
And I'm not saying that that's not a talent. I mean, there's certainly
Right.
throwing charisma at an audience does take a certain level of skill and things
Absolutely.
like that. But, a well-written joke is always going to have a foundation that nothing else will.
That's true.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's interesting to see, like, younger generations of comics because I think most of them are very hungry, and I think most of them have, like, an interesting perspective. It's more, and that's always the thing too, is because, like, if younger comics come to you and, like, want advice or want direction, there are certain things you can direct them to, but there's other things where it's like, oh, you need to kind of learn this on your own.
Yep.
And I
Yep.
don't want to tell you because that actually will probably hurt you more than help you.
And that's true. That I have to say though, I thought I would meet a lot more ego, but I think there might have been more back in my day.
I think so too.
I do. I think back 20 some odd years ago when I was originally doing comedy, I think there was a lot more ego and a lot more F you, I'm right. Why am I saying F you? I've already broken that shit earlier. But here it seems like a lot more people are interested in learning, and a lot of them maybe don't have the ego because we truly are more of a fragile thing now. We like the mental illness thing has jumped to the forefront. Back in the day, it wasn't big. Maria Bamford was like, holy crap.
It was cutting edge because, I mean, people, well, like Gary Goldman just did a special where he talked about depression. And,
right. And I mean, everybody's being real upfront and honest about it. Unfortunately, like, so because of that, I've kind of peeled back some, and I'm going for people just want to laugh, like just fucking be funny. And I doesn't shit on younger comics and their desire to shine a light. But after that becomes the new, the new crowd work TikTok, where it becomes the mental illness TikTok, the dunking on each other for, oh yeah, well, I hung out with a razor blade for 7 hours last night. Like when they start getting real weird back and forth, I feel like it's going to reach a peak and then it's going to go into the next thing. But I just hope everybody understands, like I don't say certain words on this podcast, and I would never say them on stage because they can be quite triggering. Yeah. But some of these comics are really just like saying it. And while we appreciate your brutal honesty.
Well, there's also a thing of like what is considered like taboo in comedy or taking a risk evolves as you do it more. Like originally, like back when in the 60s, like, or late 60s, early 70s, George Carlin could just go shit, piss, cunt, fuck, cocksucker, motherfucker, tits. And that was revolutionary in terms of like really breaking the doors down. Right. Well, then when other comics are approaching the same material, that becomes far less of a taboo. Then it becomes about like, Joan Rivers talking about her abortion openly on stage. Right. That becomes a taboo. But as things evolve, now like the depression, mental illness stuff, well, I certainly like people exploring that. Finding a way that's confessorial in a way that people aren't in general is different. Like I said before, there was a long period of time where I'm sure you remember this, like Christopher Hitchens had written an article saying women aren't funny, which of course is ridiculous. Ridiculous. And one of the reasons I think people had this ridiculous bias.
I was going to be a dick and go, not as funny, but ridiculous stuff. I just didn't want to meet a bunch of hate, but go ahead.
But I think the reason people had that bias is a lot of comedy is about revealing things about yourself most people would be nervous to.
That's true.
And because women socially were perceived as more emotional for a long time, a man taking emotional risk could be like, I cried at the Green Mile. Right. Whereas like a woman would have to go a lot deeper for people to perceive that, which I think was an unfair thing that was placed on women.
They would have to almost like call themselves a basket case on stage to get the laugh and were they getting the laugh because of what they were saying, or were guys going, see, I told you deep down inside, that's the way they all are. Like, what was the kickback, or what was the payoff for being so vulnerable?
Yeah, so there was always this idea of what we want most from comics, or what's exciting about comics is opening this door and seeing something about them that most people wouldn't want people to see. Right. And if you're considered somebody who's more willing to share that, you have to go a lot deeper to get to that. Yes. Like, whereas men, because we were not taught to teach, show our emotions for a long time. Yep. To be vulnerable was not that hard for a guy. Like, you could just go like, oh, I'm kind of sad right now. And people are like, oh my God. Like,
when I was a kid, I was a very emotional kid. Later, they tried to put me on medication when I was 13, but I was a very emotional kid. I wore my heart on my sleeve. Yeah. They would say, but I wore my heart right here on my chest like a fucking Care Bear. You could hurt me by bystander. I mean, like, I just got my feelings hurt a lot. I was just more of an emotional kid. But funny enough, they thought, the great majority of my family thought I would be gay because I was emotional.
My father's still not convinced.
Because I was emotional and I was artistic. And they were like, well, just brace yourself, Jennifer. And it's like, well, do I get a say in this? Because I've been in love with Claudette Gerhardt since kindergarten, Yeah. Hi, Claudie. I love you. We're friends to this day. So my wife has even met her, and Benjamin had a little girl that he was real close with when he was in kindergarten and all that stuff, Veronica. And my wife actually looked at me and goes, I wonder if that's his Claudie. That's how much Claudette affected me, that she was I go home to my grandma's house in the summer. She lived between both my grandmothers who were in the same neighborhood. And I would be like, hi, Grammy, good to see you. Well, that's who I got that cookie jar from. That's my favorite person. I said, bye, Grammy. I said, hi, Grammy. Good to see you. I'll be right back. And I would immediately go right up to Claudie's house. And I would go, hey, Claudie, will you be my girlfriend? And she's like, no. And I'm like, okay, you want to play later? She's like, yeah. And I would run back to Grammy's. And it was always first act of business, and she would turn me down. And then finally, when I was like 15 or 16, I said, hey, will you be my girlfriend? And she goes, yeah. And that was also, we dated for part of my sophomore year of high school. And
awesome.
It didn't work out. But it was kind of like a summer romance that kind of led into school. But then she was nuts for this kid, Mike. And Mike and her wound up being together throughout high school and getting married and having 2 beautiful kids. They're not together now, but still, I mean, you fall in love with who you fall in love with,
Yeah, I've talked with Caroline a lot, my girlfriend, about this. But, like, everybody has their story.
Yeah.
Some people weave in for chapters.
Yes.
Some people come in for a couple of chapters. Some people come in at, like, chapter 9, and they stay till the end of the book.
My wife.
And then some, they're there through, like, chapter 4 through 9. They're a big part of that story. Mm-hmm. And you might even have moments in later chapters where you kind of mention them, but they're just not actively a part of it.
Correct.
And there's something beautiful about it. We all have kind of a mythology that we're weaving, and, like, people kind of weave in and out of it.
One of the hardest lessons for me, though, is because I was such a mental case, and that didn't always turn out to be a good thing. I was never an evil person, but I could have treated some people in my past a lot better than I did.
Sure.
That
I can agree with that.
You have to tell yourself you can be who you are, and those in the past who forgive you and maintain a relationship with you now. So a lot of my past, they found me on Facebook and we talk to each other at times. And so I'm fortunate, but there are a couple people who I may never talk to again.
Yeah.
And what bothered me for the longest time is that you can't fix who you are in somebody else's story.
Yeah. I mean, they might.
If they villainize you, that's it. You cannot be anything other than a villain in their story, which
and
really
some of them
sad.
Some of them have their own personal experiences that cause their view to change or evolve on that, but you also can't depend on that.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I certainly have always tried my best to treat everybody with respect, but there's even people, there's even like opinions I had 15 years ago that just like through learning and understanding people better, I feel bad I had those opinions, but I also feel good that I was able to evolve out of those opinions.
Correct.
Yeah.
And that's what we got to do, I mean, I say I'm ever evolving, somebody wanted me to take a hardline stand on something prior to one of the elections of the past. And I was like, that can't happen. And they were like, but you don't agree? And I'm like, but even if I get it, I'm kind of as malleable as the fucking month I'm in or the year I'm having. So I kind of roll with that.
And I think there's actually a benefit to being honest about that too. Like I have opinions that are very ironclad on things.
Right.
But I also have opinions that I'm like, I know a modicum of information about these things.
Right.
But I also know that if I did a deep dive on that, there's a very high chance that my opinion would drastically change.
Right.
So I don't know that I want to make a bold proclamation on this particular topic, knowing I'm a little bit uninformed.
And that's the truth. That is the truth about life, man. That's wise beyond your years. I mean, you're not young, but you're younger than me. And that's something that a lot of people don't even get to until they're older than I am.
Oh yeah, I've met them.
right. So that's a good thing, I mean, if you want to say your age, how old are you?
I'm 41.
Oh no, shit! I swear to God, I thought you were younger than that.
Yeah.
When I met you back when I first started doing
comedy, by the way, you were
the
first show that I ever. The first paid show that I was ever on in Charleston, you were the headliner.
What?
Yeah.
Where was that at?
That was at Club Light before
The
it burned up.
stand-up get down, right? Was that what it was called?
Yeah, and I had a kidney stone that night. So I was
No joke.
I literally, I was in excruciating pain, went out, did my set. I was like sweating like meatloaf.
Oh, wow.
And then I went back in the bathroom and yeah, you closed out the show.
That's wild, man. I didn't know that. I never knew that.
Yeah.
That's cool. Was I nice to you?
Yeah, and here's what's funny about that. Because you've talked about how like you felt you rubbed people the wrong way.
Yes.
And I had heard from some people, and I couldn't even espouse who the names were if I tried now.
Right.
I never had any negative interactions with you.
No.
Like, I never had any problems with you. I was always like, yeah, I mean, I never sought to correct people who claim to have an issue with you, but I'm like, listen, I can only go by my personal interactions, my observations.
And
it's always been cool to me.
Yeah, I mean, and some of that was Northerner come to town. I definitely was a Baltimorean, down in this sleepy coastal, little town or whatever. It definitely was big city or bigger metropolis, not as big as New York, but a metropolis come down here. And yeah, I could have rubbed people the wrong way, sure. And I definitely was steadfast in certain opinions. And I'd have to say, I did not have as much respect for women as I should have. I will say that was a big issue.
Sure.
Not the female comedian, just females in general. I kind of listened to them like with half an ear, I think. And that was terrible. I remembered like going, okay, yeah. And they could tell I was patronizing them, I think. And so if there's a female comic who had a problem with me, she most certainly was well within her right to do so. My material was a lot more sex-driven, a lot more misogynistic at points. A song I wrote about getting head on your birthday. That's so freaking lame and rude. And I've never performed it in 12 years, 15 years or something, but I was so like, why did I think that was something? And I mean, I remember female comics being like, what an asshole. Like,
sure. And so there was a really good show in New York where one of the things you had to do is you had to find your old joke notebooks or old writings and read them on stage.
Good God.
And it was the most like cringe-inducing thing. But my favorite one, there's a very funny comedian named Kim Denaro. She wanted to be like a Britney Spears pop star when she was younger.
Right.
So she actually performed as an adult some songs she wrote when she was like 12 or 13.
Oh my gosh.
And the balls to do it. I was blown away. And she has like an amazing voice and she does musical comedy now that's really good.
Oh, cool.
But like watching her do these songs and it's a 12-year-old's understanding of what songwriting was incredible.
Yeah. That's so funny. Like that's got to be how Taylor Swift feels when she listens to She's cheer captain and I'm on the bleach. It's got to sound like holy
There's got to be
crap.
when you see your own evolution. I remember hearing Robert Plant hates playing Stairway to Heaven.
Right.
Because he was still pretty young when they wrote that. I mean, he was like in his early 20s.
Yeah.
So to him, he sees this young kid in his 20s
who's musing about something he has very little world experience.
And so he said and then when I go to Presence, which was like 2 albums later, he said, I think that's much more evolved. I think that's much more. And he's like, but fans want to listen to 1 or 2 songs from that.
Right.
But the album with Stairway to Heaven, the 4th album, they want to listen to everything on that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, what is it? Steven Tyler wrote Dream On when he was like 15 or something. I mean, like every time that I look in the mirror, all these lines in my face, and it's like, wow, the past is gone. You're a child. But he embraced that song. He'll sing that thing for as many years as he can. Well, I mean, he doesn't do much anymore, but
yeah, they actually just played their last shows in December.
Oh,
yeah. I had a friend of mine who's seen them multiple times. They were one band that I never got around to seeing.
I never got to see them either.
And I've seen a lot of bands, but yeah, never got to see Aerosmith.
What's your favorite band you got to see live?
Ooh, I got to see Iggy Pop.
I just watched him in Crow City of Angels the other day.
Oh, yeah. Terrible movie, but
I was revisiting stuff from that, and it was terrible.
But Zeppelin and the Stooges are like 2 of my favorites.
Yeah.
I've seen every surviving member of Led Zeppelin in different projects.
Oh, got you.
And that's been cool. And then actually my favorite current band is Ghost.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. They're just really a lot of fun, but I've gotten to see a lot of really good shows. Bruce Springsteen was amazing live, and I saw him in New Jersey, and that was kind of like a religious experience.
Yeah. I'm going to a festival, and I'll tell you, a lot of things with the conversation and rubbing people the wrong way. Unmedicated Ben doesn't have the strongest memories of things from his past, because like I'll watch a video of Green Day in concert. I'm like, man, I bet they'd be great to see, but I already saw them.
Yeah.
In those moments, though, I was so focused on something else or the mission or daydreaming about what ifs that I missed out on a lot of things that I should have been more present for. The birth of him is one thing that brought me to Earth that I can tell you every minute of that whole entire experience.
Because every moment matters then. Yeah.
That's what happened there. So family became something where I'm hyper focused, and sometimes to a bad degree, like need to know where they're at all time. I'm trying to not be a hover dad. He went away to college, and I was just like, couldn't sleep because I didn't hear him across the hallway, on computer games with his friends until 3 a.m. I'm that kind of guy. But I remember in like social aspects, I never was really, I think, really present. And maybe that's the reason why I'd love to go back and do comedy, because I know I would be. I would want to get to know people. And that's this show too. I would love to get to know people. I want to hear them. I want to figure something out,
My father was a DEA agent for most of his life.
No joke.
Yeah. And he's retired now. But I remember when I moved to New York, it was funny because we went to dinner and he was planning to persuade me not to move.
Oh, yeah?
And then he didn't tell me this until after, but by the time we finished talking, he was like, no, this is the right thing for Michael to do.
Wow.
Like, I actually wasn't trying to, but I persuaded him that, like, but one of the things he said to me is he said, I'm coming near the tail end of my law enforcement career. And law enforcement, he wanted to be a cop since he was like a kid. Something that meant a lot to him and meant as much to him as comedy meant to me. And he said, one of the things that I regret, and I figured it out late in my career, but I didn't stop to enjoy my successes. I didn't stop to appreciate them. And I didn't stop to go like, man, it's really cool that I'm getting to have this moment.
Yeah.
And he said, and the one thing I want you to do when you go to New York, I want you, when you're having those moments, to stop and do that, whatever it is. And like, I had told him like, I'm going to WrestleMania. And he's like, and I had been once before.
Yeah. How many of you attended?
5.
Nice.
Been a 24, 33, 34, 35, and then 40 I went to.
Nice. Okay, but you were saying, so.
But he said, I want you to really take it in. Don't think like, oh, I'm just going to WrestleMania. Like, breathe it in, observe things. Make sure that like when, you have kids or you have like, nieces or anything, that when they ask you about it, you're able to describe what it smelled like. You're able to describe what it was such a brilliant piece of advice, because pretty much every success or achievement or just even cool moment that I've had since then, I was actually able to step back and go, oh no, like anybody can do this.
Right.
A lot of people haven't done this, and you need to be grateful.
Yes.
But you also need to take it in, and you also need to appreciate it, because you can keep going for the next thing, the next thing, the next thing, and realize you never took the time to appreciate what you've already accomplished.
Right. My son, what is the last production note that I have for me at the end of every taping?
To congratulate you on making it through another show.
And to give me a
hug.
That's right.
I love that.
I gave him production notes of what to like look out for, things like little tasks. So I do it, but he can double check behind me. And then he said, and it tells me, stop, realize that you got a chance to do another show. You're getting a chance to do things that you dreamed about, and take a moment to congratulate yourself on another show done. And he always gives me a hug and says, hey man, you did it. I'm proud of you. He's like, one show at a time, one day this could be something, or you make enough money at it that you can just continue to have just a YouTube and a podcast presence.
Yeah. Yeah. And
that it pays for itself and you're fine, like that's a great time,
And like one of the other things that I realized several years ago, we all have goals, and obviously the thing that we all relish is that destination.
Yes.
But if you're not enjoying the journey, the destination is always fulfilling, but it's never as fulfilling as you thought it would be.
Correct.
So you have to enjoy the journey as much as the destination, or you're cheating yourself.
Correct.
Like, as much as there were times I had struggles, like starting out in comedy, when I realized I love this, I'm okay at it, but I'm not great at it, and I want to be great at it now.
Gotcha.
Looking back and appreciating that journey, appreciating like the worst shows that I had, the worst bombs that I had.
Yeah.
actually made me love comedy more, because it's like, oh, like this was all part of the process, and I kind of need to learn to enjoy all of it, even
Yep.
when it's not what was ideal.
That's true. I remember one of the comics, touching back on one of the female comics I saw her, Joe Pasta, who pretty much didn't like just tell me off, but like wasn't really happy with me after a Theater 99 show we did together. And when I saw her, Joe Pasta, a couple years later, I had paid attention to what she was saying, and her material was just, it was brutal, and it was so hilarious. Like her relationship woes, god damn, it was brutal. It made me feel like so terrible to laugh at, but I was like, but she's funny as fuck. And I came up to her and I said, she was like, I was laughing back there. Sorry if I distracted you. And she was like, what was it that got you so good? And she had a bit about how do skinny women stay skinny? It's like, what are they eating? Love from their boyfriends? Like how just terrible her life was, that she couldn't figure out what they were dieting on, that she couldn't diet on except for love from a boyfriend. I thought that was so brilliant on two levels, even more, that I lost it. And I just said, man, you're wonderful. I said, that is a great. And she like cocked her head and she was like, oh, well, maybe I had this guy wrong. And it's like, no, you didn't have me wrong. I just am growing up. You know, I won't deny anybody what they thought of me. I'm sorry. Like I'm trying, I want to see people for who they are. I don't come in with a preconceived notion, but I just come in with a shut things down and kind of hold court sometimes. And I hate that. I really do.
That's why I've actually never been concerned about people pulling up like old tweets of me or things like that.
Yeah.
To like, try to like loud me out. Because my answer would be very simple. It's like, yeah, I did think that. And then I grew up.
Correct.
Like, I mean,
you can still grow up at, 40.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like, and that's always, I think that's always got to be a trajectory. Like you want to be constantly working to improve yourself. And I think a lot of comedy is, I'm trying to be a good person.
Right.
Here's where it went wrong. Like,
yeah. Well, so you were 41. I'm 47.
Yeah.
So you're 6 years younger than me. So that means when I would have done Club Light, I had first moved to town, I might have been like 32, 33. So you were in your mid 20s, later 20s, or early
mid to late. Yeah.
Right. Mid to late. And I would have seriously thought you were 20 damn too.
Yeah.
I mean.
Well, I had a baby face for a long time.
You really did. You really did. And wearing the hoodies and little blue jeans, and you just, and you were green, as we all are.
Of course,
and
yeah.
Your material is what which is younger than the rest of us. But you weren't like a child. You weren't doing like childish material. Like you ever watch Denver the Last Dinosaur and think to yourself, you weren't like being like a child. God, isn't that great? That's it. I was watching James Bond Jr. last week. I can pull out so many cartoons I remember, but
well, and you could always tell certain comics. Like there was one comic in town who was a giant stoner, and all of his jokes were about commercials. And I'm like, that's probably not a coincidence.
There was one. He has this persona on stage. I talked about him, I think, to Jalen, but I don't know if I did it on air. And if I did, I haven't edited her episode yet, so maybe I won't say it there because then it seems like I'm obsessed with this kid. But Liam Clancy comes off incredibly, not a stoner, but just like,
Yeah.
And then you talk to him in person, he's a lot more educated. He's a lot more...
Very sharp guy.
Very sharp.
Yeah.
And then he jogged past me the other day as I was leaving my neighborhood, and he's built like a motherfucker. And it's like Clark Kent and Superman. He gets on there. He wears the hoodies too. He wear a hoodie. He's got blue jeans, and he's talking like this and all that stuff. And then you see him jogging past you, and it's like, what the shit?
Yeah, I teased him when I went on this podcast because he jokes that he's like the most handsome comic in Charleston. And I'm like, yeah, but like that's not a high bar to clear. Like I am the third hottest comic in Charleston.
Right, right.
Like
you can say whatever. Much. You can say whatever, like I've never played to that strength. I think I would never view myself as hot or attractive or anything, but what I go for is...
Thank God.
What I go for is I am your kid brother or your older brother, or I am your friend's kid brother or older brother who is sitting here in a basement, which this isn't a basement, but like sitting here in a basement, chatting with friends and eating snacks, and everybody goes, I swear to God, that's... And typically that brother has an ironic name like Tiny, and he's 6'3" and over 300 pounds.
I could see that.
And I'm like your kid. I'm that brother. Like you. Oh my God! Every time I went over Jessica's house, her older brother. Jesus Christ, what a goofball! And I think that's the energy that I tend to bring to most things.
What's funny about that is the first time I saw you perform, and it was interesting to watch your evolution because, like, first time I saw you perform, I think you were still leading with a lot of like swagger and confidence on stage.
Yeah.
At that time. And it's funny because you're not really that guy off stage, really, at all. And so...
really quite intimidated and quite nervous,
I think it was when you got diagnosed with bipolar.
Yes.
That was like... I always thought you were funny, but I remember you came, I think it was like Big Gun or something, and you came on stage and you just talked about that. And then I started to see the person I knew off stage, on stage.
Yes.
And that was like a really exciting moment because I'm like, okay, like, this guy was good already, but now I feel like there's something just... that the audience can sink their teeth into it in an even deeper way.
Yeah, and now I've ditched talking about that because, like I said, it is the topic of now.
Yeah.
But the things that I will joke around about, I have no problem throwing that insecurity into it or kind of saying like, what am I going to do? And so people know I'm vulnerable and it's fine. Like it's not being vulnerable for the sake of the joke. It's just like, man, he's up on stage and he just seems like a cool guy, or he just seems like somebody you could have a drink with. He doesn't seem like but there was a lot of swagger. There was a lot of bravado. And I think a great deal of it was false, was really a put on. And I was just, if I could control the narrative, and I'll tell you what happened was big family tragedy. I've told about it in other episodes, but it made me very famous for the wrong reasons. I was a story on the news and all that stuff. So when you're in a small town like Glen Burnie, Maryland, and everybody knows who you are, for that reason, you want to control it now. You're like, well, they're going to know me because I'm Big Ben. So you kind of are trying to be more than they're thought of you.
Harry Shearer has a quote. He said, comedians do what they do because they want to control why people are laughing at them.
Correct. And when I stopped doing that, the bipolar was bipolar 2, and now I don't know if I've gotten old or we treated the ADHD and the OCD side of things. I don't know what happened, but I've been dropped down to cyclothymic disorder.
Okay.
And I don't know if just my brain chemicals don't support the shit anymore, because I'm getting old.
Yeah.
But I don't have nearly the amount of mood swings to support it to my psychiatrist team and everything. They're just like, I think we got to drop you down. Now the treatment's still the same. I take the same medication, but he was like, you're good with money and you work overtime and you do your family's finances and all the things I'm doing. They're like, that's not really typical of a bipolar person. He's really kind of trying to understand me. And he's like, and you'll talk about this and you weigh out your emotions and you know where to take a break from something. He's like, so you've gotten really good at it. He's like, but I think it's just a thing of, they diagnosed you with bipolar 2 and it made sense at the time. But as time has gone on, it's like really, it's almost like you say bipolar 3, like a mild cyclothymic disorder. And I was like, because I don't have enough of the mania to support it. I have more of the depression. The bottom just drops out on me.
And I think you just learn how to manage
multiple
it,
times
and
a year.
Changes. The more you learn how to manage it, the more it starts to actually have like that physiological change too.
Because I told myself it was seasonal affective disorder. I was like, man, who wouldn't get bummed? Your dad and brother die on November 30th, and then your dad's birthday was supposed to be December 9th. Then you got Christmas coming up. It's like, fucking sucks. It's seasonal. It's no sunlight. I'm like, that's what it is. But then it's like, well, then why is it happening in February and then in May and then in July and it's like, why am I not able to control these serious downslopes?
Now, when you got treatment, because like I have depression and I've been able to treat it and I'm a lot better than I used to be in that regard for sure. Do you sometimes get frustrated when it's like, your problem is you just need to talk to somebody. You just need to go and get some type of treatment.
And I did cognitive behavioral therapy for
But like when you
almost
see
2
it in
years.
other people now.
Oh,
Not like mad at them, but like it's like I know that if you just took this one step.
I do, and I got a buddy of mine, a very good friend, one of my best friends these days, and he wanted to go talk to somebody, and he was like, I don't think I'm gonna do it, and I just told him, I said, look, man, I said you're ultimately in charge of your own mental health. If you don't want to do it, don't do it. But if you at least just go there, if you nut up and prove to yourself you can do it, if you don't like what they're saying, you can bounce. Because I told him my experience. When they said bipolar 2 disorder, I cussed that bastard out.
Oh, yeah?
You know? Now, God bless Dr. Phelps. He doesn't practice in this area anymore. He moved to Florida or whatever. He was roughly my age. I wound up running into him at the Shinedown concert with Five Finger Death Punch or something. Or he saw me from afar and I waved to him. And he came to me the next session we had and he was like, man, I saw you at that concert. He's like, you were having fun. And I was like, yeah. And he got to see like another side of me, which was really cool. But anyway, so he turned around and he was like, I'm going to write a prescription. I really think you should start taking it. And I was just like, yeah, well, I wouldn't fucking count on it. I mean, like I blew up at him. I was like, and I snatched it. And he was like, make an appointment at the desk. I was like, eat shit. You know, I was pissed. I was pissed. Because my mom and dad, from what we've done in therapy since, we've discovered my dad was 100% bipolar. When I talked to family members, they were like, oh, yes, he was, you know, like, you know. And so he was pretty much saying like, hey, you're not better than those people who created you. Because I always prided myself on being different. I used to tell myself, and it was a joke. I wasn't joking, but I seriously thought, well, the two of them canceled each other out when they made me. Then to admit that, no, it didn't.
Yeah, there's still those remnants there.
Very anger-inducing. And then, instead, I started to focus on what they had done. And, in essence, learn from what they didn't correct. Now, there was times where they could have turned it around. There was times where they could have been better. There's times where they could have gotten the help and they didn't. But I'm going to do it better. So you still want to be better than them, but now you just have to shift how you're better than them. You can't just be better than them because you were born that way. You have to really take charge of yourself and be not a better parent. Not to say my mom and dad were, you know, my dad could have been better. And my mom, at times, she'd tell you she could have been a better parent. But to be a better parent to them was now the focus. I may be like them, but I'm nothing like them. And it was that spiteful thing. And then as I've just gotten older, I've just realized, man, we are who we are. We're on the spinning turd in the cosmos. And we really should be honest with ourselves and try and be better at all times. And it's not easy.
Well, you can't correct things until you're able to be honest with it. I mean,
Right.
It was interesting because, like, when I got diagnosed with depression, like, I think the most difficult thing for me was, you know, people are always looking back, like, you know, what's your family trauma, things like that. My parents got a divorce at 11, but my
Right.
parents had a very adult divorce.
Right.
Like, they didn't use their kid as a bargaining chip.
Right.
It was very much a personal thing between them, and they're like, but let's be responsible to the kid.
Right.
Like, and both of my parents are well-adjusted people. They're both very sweet people. So it's like, oh, this isn't genetic. I'm just fucked up. And it just came out of nowhere, and you guys are fine. So, like, and there was even part of me that, like, when I started comedy, I would hear people go, like, oh, I have all this trauma from a family. It's like, well, why didn't you guys hook me up with some trauma? I'm just, like, I just have bad wiring.
I remember a comedian that I knew, and he's since passed away, but he was one of my good friends in comedy back in Baltimore. And he had some bad demons, but we were good friends, man. We would tour together. We would take shows on the road. We, you know, always performed together. I think I was the one who introduced him at the open mic for the very first time he performed. And he went on to do really great things. He had a special on, well, his Hulu or something. Like, he really did some great things. And he never knew my story. So I was talking to him in my house about my story. And he goes, man, he's like, I'm in therapy right now because my dad missed a Little League game when I was like 9. He's like, I really got to learn to let shit go. And I was like, dude, each of us have our own things. But he was so, like, embarrassed for himself that, like, he stopped talking to me as much. And
Yeah.
I thought that's crazy, you know? Like,
I mean, people have a hard
I
time
wasn't
looking
trauma
past it.
dunking on him like, you
Yeah.
think you're a basket case? Boom, you know? Like,
Yeah.
I was just sharing
Like
my
you
story.
dropped the slammer from Pogs. Like,
Right,
boom.
Pog milk calves, holy
Yeah.
shit. I didn't.
Taking it back.
Oh yeah, I didn't. I regretted weirdly telling him my story, but then I was like, no, we were trading stories, and I told him mine, but he just, it was embarrassing because, like you say, it made you feel like, well, I'm not nearly as fucked up as everyone around me, so what right do I have?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And that's sad because it shouldn't feel that way. You know, we're all broken. I mean, a lot of comedians are from the Isle of Misfit Toys.
Well,
You know?
I don't know why this reminds me of this, and this is a sad story that has like a very funny ending to it.
Okay.
So I knew Taiwanza Sanders, who was killed in the Emmanuel AME
Yep,
shooting.
yep.
He used to come to open mics, would do comedy, a little bit of Joe Pasta.
But he did poetry too.
He did poetry too, which I was always happy because I hosted a couple times and people are always like, why are you letting him do poetry? And I was like, well, because it's just 5 minutes. He can do whatever he wants. And I'm so glad I never went like, hey, man, it's comedy, not poetry.
Right.
Because I wouldn't want to be the guy that like told him that he wasn't allowed to express that.
Right.
And when he died.
And Ty for the one, if you read the articles, Ty was the one who begged Dylan Roof to point the gun at him.
He shielded his grandmother, like the most
let
heroic
everybody
way to die.
go.
Yeah, it was
He
devastating.
said, keep that gun pointed at me. Don't point at them. Keep it pointed at me. There is documented things that's what he told that little fucker.
Yeah, I mean,
and
unequivocal hero.
Yep.
And it was,
Yep.
so we were all devastated. So I remember the next mic we had after he died, because we were all like a wreck after that.
absolutely.
And we go there, and there was this one open mic comic, and he was not good, and he was also this very self-important guy. So he gets on stage, and he goes, you know, at a time like this, like, part of me just wonders, like, is it okay for me to be funny? And somebody from the back of the room shouts, why start now? And then the entire room, it like killed all the tension.
Yes, it breaks the tension. Let's turn it from this to turn it to this. If this show ever got popular enough that I could have elements brought in, you will be my movie review guy.
I love that.
Holy crap. I have commented to you very recently. I'm waiting to see. I saw it. I'm waiting to see what you say about this one.
I get that from a lot of people. And some people, the funniest one was Tim Heckle.
I love
Every
Tim
time
Heckle.
I see Tim
Love
Heckle,
Tim.
he'll ask me my opinion on whatever the shittiest movie in theater is at the time. He's like, hey, so what's your take on Angry Birds? Like,
He'll deliberately come to you with the shittiest movie he can think of.
but yeah, I've always loved film. I've just always been enamored with it. Even like when I was a child, like a lot of kids would be like, you know, crying in the theater and things like that. And I was just transfixed. And I'm also like, because a lot of people say like, are you a film snob? And I'm not, because I like really artsy films. Like I like good international films. I like Fellini. I like all that. But also, I'll go see a Fast and the Furious movie and have a great time. I don't have like a
Right. You're not like
limitation.
you're not a film snob of that.
Yeah, I think it's an entertainment form and an art form, and both can exist. And then in some cases, I think they intersect. Like I actually think what Tom Cruise has done with Mission Impossible, some of those entries I would say are some of the better action movies ever made.
Yep.
So they've kind of crossed the lexicon of both.
Yep. You remember the first movie you ever saw?
I remember it's a group of movies. I don't know which one I saw first. I remember my dad taking me to see Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade in theaters.
Awesome.
Which he wasn't even a big Indiana Jones fan, but so I thought it was so funny he took that. And I love those movies.
Yeah, and I saw that in the theater too.
And then Rocky V, I remember, because my dad was obsessed
Go
with Rocky
for it.
movies. My dad was a boxer when he was younger.
Oh,
so
cool.
like Rocky is like a family member to us.
Nice,
Like,
nice.
And I remember the fifth one being in theater for it. And my dad also, he knew everybody involved in boxing.
Right.
So he's like, oh, that's Tommy Gunn.
Yep,
and
yep.
blah, blah, blah. So like he would...
Tommy Morrison.
Yeah, Tommy Morrison, yeah. And so I remember that moment. And those were two movies that kind of stuck out. I also remember, before my parents got divorced, the last movie we saw together was Mrs. Doubtfire.
Wow.
So there was part of me, I'm like, did they get the idea from the movie? Like, or
I
was
know,
nobody
right?
doing? Like,
That is still a great movie, but
Yeah.
one of the scenes that stuck with me that I would feel as a father was the taking away my oxygen thing that Robin Williams, the speech he gives
Yeah.
about the custody of the kids. You take them away,
Yeah.
you're taking away my oxygen, and all that stuff. I would be the same exact way. He spoke a truth that I could feel in my soul at that time, and having kids, never thought that was a ham-fisted line, would never, ever think that the screenwriter did not completely understand being a father at that fucking moment.
well, there's certain times you see a movie and it doesn't resonate with you at the time, but as you get older, it
That's true.
resonates more. Like, one of my favorite movies is Dr. Strangelove.
Oh, wow.
And when I first saw it when I was 13, I was like, I guess this is good. But then, like, when I saw it older, wiser, I'm like, oh, this is brilliant. One of my favorites recently was Jurassic World, the first Chris Pratt one.
Yeah.
I remember going to see that, and I'm like, this is so stupid. Nobody would come back to this island after knowing what problems it caused the first time.
Right.
And then when Trump won the second time, I'm like, oh, Jurassic Park guys were geniuses.
Yeah,
Like,
people will revisit.
Yeah, like,
We just talked about that last night because we watched Safety Not Guaranteed.
oh, yeah, great movie.
Love that
Yeah.
movie. I like Mark Duplass. I think the Creep movies are genius. And the series was a little weird, but I think the Creep movies were genius.
The series I enjoy, but the movies are pretty much, I mean, in terms of found footage, are two of the better ones.
Yep. So Duplass and all that stuff. Well, that was directed by Colin Trevorrow.
yeah.
Right. So, and of course, who's in that and who's in Jurassic World? Jake Johnson.
Yeah.
You know, that's like his buddy. And also The Mummy with Tom Cruise and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So Jake Johnson had a really great run of movies. He's been a little more choosy. I have to tell you, Minx was probably one of my favorite series at that time. You really got to like penises, though. Man, God, between that and Righteous Gemstones, God, dick in every episode. But anyway, but Minx...
Well, there was that period of time in the 90s where, like, Harvey Keitel was whipping his dick out in
Yeah,
every
that's
movie.
true. That's
Like,
true. That's true. Kevin Bacon and Wild Things.
Yeah.
Like, it was... Penises took off. It was big in the 90s. Penises were big business. No, but the thing is, I to say that in Jurassic World, well, to go back to my first movies, I remember briefly, I have memories of it, but I can't be sure, but I've talked to my mom, and she said, yeah, Fox and the Hound at a drive-in movie theater, and I'm talking about the kind where you hung up the speaker on the window of your car.
oh, hell yeah.
Okay, so I remember that, but the first movie I remember physically seeing, and I remember it blinding the shit out of me when I came out into the sunlight, E.T.
E.T., that's a great movie. And
Yep.
Now I'll say the movie that probably, like, wasn't the first movie I saw, but the first movie that I was like, okay, this is going to be like a love affair with me forever. I remember the first trailer for Terminator 2 coming out. And I had never seen the first one.
Oh, yeah.
But, like, you saw the trailer. You saw the, the T-1000 forming a liquid metal. You saw the robots and stuff. And I'm like, this is amazing. And it was rated R, but I had an uncle at the time, Uncle John, who... He was like, I don't care, I'll take him.
Uh-huh.
And I took it, and like I sat in that theater, and I was like, this is the coolest thing I've ever seen in my life. And I watched that VHS so much the tape ran out on it when it came out.
Well, when I was a kid, my uncles, so I was a fan of this movie since I was a child, which is the glove right there, Nightmare on Elm Street. And then when I got to part 4, I begged my Uncle Doug to take me. He took me to see part 4. My stepdad Howard, my mom's husband at that time, took me to see 5 and 6. So I had that rated R movies. They started taking me to was Nightmare on Elm Street because I was a tremendous fan of that movie.
So, quick funny story about that. So, have a Freddy Claw on my arm.
Nice.
Been a Nightmare on Elm Street fan for years. I love Freddy Krueger.
Love him. He's my favorite.
And it was a blend of horror and comedy. So
that's what I think I like too.
But here's the funny thing. First time I ever saw Nightmare on Elm Street, I had 2 female cousins who were older than me who put it on, and it petrified me. I was scared, and then
my cousins introduced me to it too.
And I went home to my parents, and I was crying, and I remember we had a mom and pop video store in Savannah, Georgia.
Okay.
And I was terrified to go in there because they had the Dream Master, the Dream Child one where he's doing like this by the baby carriage, and that cardboard cutout.
Baby carriage had the spines, the spike. Yeah.
The cardboard cutout scared me, so my parents were like, I was terrified to go in there, and my dad handed me the tapes, and he's like, you got to go in there on your own, and you got to take it up to the counter. And I'm like, but Freddy's at the counter. And they're like, I don't care. You're going to get over this fear. So I literally ran in there. I threw the tapes across the counter and hit this like 16-year-old girl in the face with the tapes. And I ran out like crying and screaming. And my dad's like, damn it, son, it's just a movie. And it's like, but why would they make a movie about that? And he's like, because some people like being scared. And I'm like, I'll never like being scared. I'll never like it. Fast forward to 41 years old, I have the tattoo.
Oh, but also you watch every horror movie that came out.
I am the biggest horror movie fan.
And I love that you don't spoil because Sinners, I found out by you, and I was surprised. Nobody wanted to ruin that movie. Everybody who talked about Sinners was like, oh my God, the direction and the music and such, and you really have, they did not talk about the twist. Yeah. Nobody's like, and I won't do it here, but they were just like, oh my God, you have to see it.
Because it's so rare, trailers don't spoil that now.
Right.
I wanted that magic to exist because, like, I am jealous of friends of mine who know nothing about Dusk Till Dawn.
Right.
And they watch it now.
Yeah.
Like, I even had somebody's like, is Dust Till Dawn good? I'm like, yes, do not read a single thing about it online.
Yep.
Because, like, the twist is so fun.
And don't look into anything more about it because they're all just having so much fun. I mean, for God's sake, Savini gets a chance to play.
Yeah, Sex Machine.
You know
Yeah,
what I'm saying?
yeah.
Like, he's the special effects guy. He gets a chance to act, and he's not an actor. I mean, that's freaking
And he's
awesome.
good in it.
Oh, he's great.
Yeah.
He gets a chance to show how that gun worked from Desperado.
Like, horror and comedy work so much in a similar sense because
They
they
do.
both work on a sense of misdirection.
Yep.
And, like, and yeah, I just love the genre. Even like, Stephen King has a quote. It's one of my favorite quotes ever. He said, "The worst horror movie I ever saw was fucking great."
I like that.
Speaking of, you have a series of shelves and you have things that your guests bring you.
That's 100%. I ask all my guests to bring me something as my collection.
So I brought a Nightmare on Elm Street deck of playing cards. And the reason I brought this, people know I love Freddy Krueger, so if they see something out there, they'll pick it up for me a lot of times.
That's what happens to me with Back to the Future.
I have Freddy Claws. I have, like, somebody got me, like, a Freddy action figure. It's really, really sweet. But I've had this same deck of cards, I think is at gas stations or something. I've had 6 different people give me this as a gift. And I have to pretend, which now 6 of them are going to know.
Sorry.
5 of them are going to know I plastered on a fake smile and pretended I was, like, excited. But I've gotten the same deck of cards 6 times. And so I felt like if there's a gift that I have to hand over, I have to make sure that Ben has a part of the playing card legacy.
Oh boy, see, now the thing about this is I so love to have this, but I also would love to open it and use it, but no, it is perfectly fine. I would love to keep this. This is great, man.
Yeah.
That is so great. This has got to be... See, that horror stuff has been existing over there. I need to spread it over to here. So I will find a good place for this. It's going to sit there right now for temporary sake.
Are you a fan of the genre as well?
Oh, yes. Yes.
What's your favorite horror film?
The Nightmare on Elm Streets are my favorites. As a standalone, maybe, or like I was a fan of. Well, see, I like the slashers.
I'm a slasher fan
I'm
too.
a big
Scream.
Scream.
I got Scream.
Scream
Yeah.
hit me surprisingly, and it's just Wes Craven for you.
Yeah.
Scream just reinvigorated me. I had lost touch on all that because I had even seen New Nightmare in the theater 3 times. And boy, that painting, that ending where she comes out of the water, that does not hold up. I just watched it the other day, and it's
New
terrible.
Nightmare is fun, and it was kind of groundbreaking because it was one of those early meta movies.
So meta.
But, like, yeah, there's a couple of scenes in there that don't stand the test of time.
Now, is that Robert Englund in that suit?
That is Robert Englund in that suit. They just wanted to have it, like, more kind of a German-inspired...
See, I thought that he wasn't doing it. I thought when he said on the audio thing, like, I got to go away for a while, I thought that was a hint to the fact that he wasn't playing this Freddy.
No, it's supposed to be a different incarnation of Freddy,
I know.
for sure, but it is Robert Englund in the costume. And they
Okay.
said, like I said, they wanted to have more of, like, a German expressionism, like, influence.
Yeah.
Which they do. Like, he has kind of that darker shades and things like that. And I thought it was an interesting idea. I think it would just... The Freddy aspect of it is probably the least interesting part of that movie.
That's true. And I had a crush on Heather Langenkamp.
I still do.
Even in Just the 10 of Us, I loved...
I did
Just
too.
the 10 of Us always thrilled me because the kid was such a horror fan and he wore Freddy
Well,
shirts.
and all 3 girls ended up being in
And
horror
3
movies.
girls are in
Brooke
that
Thies
movies.
is the cockroach chick in the 4th movie.
And then the girl who played Connie was the...
And one of the Friday the 13th movies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and then Heather, of course, was in it. And I just thought that was so cool. Yeah, the cockroach bugs check in, but they don't check out. Squish.
Screaming Mad George was the guy who did the special effects for that. He
Oh, I
was
love
genius.
Do you hear this? Do you hear this? I'm telling you. All right, this is what we'll say before we get out. We're going to get out of here, but I still want to talk to you more about other stuff. But for right now, thank you so much for snacking and yakking with us. This is Mike Clayton. Follow him on all of his social media. And we're going to get out of here, but we're not getting out of here. You got to go. Sorry. You don't have to go home. You just can't stay here. Love you guys. Take care. Bye. So many snacks. So many snacks. Hi. Well, thank you for watching another episode of Snackin and Yakkin. Do you want to be one of these names scrolling up the screen right now? Or maybe one of these photos in the frame right here? Well, it's very simple. You just join our Patreon. That's patreon.com/snackinyakkin. Membership levels start at $5 and go up to $15, and there's more perks the higher that you go. And let's face facts, you'd probably spend $5 on Starbucks or Subway next month anyway, right? But for your membership, it helps this show go, go, go. So thank you so much for stopping by patreon.com/Snackin Yakkin. And now, consider watching one of these 2 videos right here and going through the channel because there's plenty of show to go. And thank you for coming with me on my journey as I do some more